Good afternoon, everyone. This is Bob Pompiani here at Steeler headquarters as we get set for a Tomlin Tuesday, and we welcome all our viewers on Pittsburgh CW, as well as all the people watching on Steeler digital platforms all throughout this country and this world, for that matter. The Steelers coming off back-to-back home losses to the Raiders and the Bengals, and they certainly have a lot of work to do now at 1-2 with two of these losses in conference play. And the assignment won't get any easier this coming Sunday. A trip to Lambeau Field to take on the Packers, who have won 2 in a row, including a dramatic win on the last possession of the game against the 49ers. A beautiful 37-second drive by Aaron Rodgers down the field. Devonte Adams setting up Mason Crosby for a 51-yard game-winning kick. The Steelers have injury issues. They have offensive line issues. They have to figure out how to generate more in the run game so that they don't have to pass the ball 58 times like they did last week. So there's a lot there. This week is the time where some players are eligible to come off injured reserve, and that would be Zach Banner, Anthony McFarland, Stephon Tuitt. So I'm sure that'll be a talking point today for Coach Tomlin as he gets ready to address the media. But also, there are some defensive concerns also when you look down the field and some of the bigger plays they've been giving up. So a lot to work on, but this is going to be an interesting matchup between two historic franchises as they go head-to-head. 4:25 on Sunday afternoon. You'll see it on KDKA TV. One of the concerns, of course, is taking some of the pressure off of Ben Roethlisberger in the pocket, forcing him to do something that maybe in his day, he was tremendous at extending plays. Not so much right now. You would expect that for a guy who's been around 18 years and approaching 40 years of age. But 4 sacks, 21 pressures, 7 hits. All of that is way too much for one game, and it made it very difficult for the Steelers to generate any sort of offense in the run game. And that, to me, is something that has to change. When you look at a guy like Najee Harris, he was targeted 19 times in the pass game. But they need to get some yards. And when they did last week against Cincinnati, certainly they had plays called back because of penalty. And that's another facet of the problems here and things they have to work out, both from a technique standpoint and also, just the turnover standpoint. You can't make mistakes in games like this. When you turn the ball over, and they've lost that battle in each of the last 2 games, you're going to have problems, and they did in those games. So now they go to a place where Green Bay, who had turnovers in their first game when they got blown out and Aaron Rodgers got benched, they've turned that around, and they have won that turnover game in the last couple of weeks. So a lot to get into with Mike Tomlin as the Steelers get set for Green Bay. And again, this game on 4:25. Coming up after Mike Tomlin's comments, by the way, Missy Matthews and I will be here. We'll break down some of what he had to say, and we'll give you some analysis on what he had to say. But certainly things have got to change on the offensive side of things if the Steelers are to get back into the win column. And again, right now they're 1-2. That's last place in the AFC North through 3 weeks. But there's a lot of football left. Mike Tomlin is ready now to address the media. Let's go inside the indoor facility.
Good afternoon. Much like I said on Sunday, we have to absorb the negativity with our current state and our positioning. We're 1-2. We don't desire to be, but we are. We're playing poorly. We don't desire to, but we are. And so more importantly is what's our course of action in terms of changing the quality of play and then thus the outcome of games. We gotta remain singularly professionally focused in the midst of this negativity. We got to have good work days. We got to get better individually and collectively. Now, how does that happen? I outlined it briefly on Sunday. And there are 3 prongs or 3 points of emphasis that I'm focused on. The schematics or the positioning of the people. We got to continually do a better job as a staff to have an understanding of what our strengths and weaknesses are as from a personnel standpoint, and play to our strengths and minimize our weaknesses. We haven't done that well enough, and that's one of the reasons why we played the way that we played on Sunday. But we also got to get the guys better fundamentally, and that's skills relative to their positions. And that just requires tedious work or repetition of routine action. And that's what we're doing in practice settings. And along the way, as players, individually and collectively, they got to gain an understanding or knowledge of the game relative to the positions that they play. That's born in practice based on experience. It's also born in games based on experience. We got some guys who individually need growth in that area, and we all need growth in that area collectively. And so, man, we're going to continually roll this ball out this week, man. We're going to work with an edge. We understand where we are. We don't want to be here. We don't like it. But forget about not liking it. What are you going to do about it? That's what we're going to do about it. But we also realize that there's going to be a test at the end of the week that comes in Lambeau Field in the form of the Green Bay Packers. And so we're working hard with an edge to get better, but we're also working hard with an edge to prepare ourselves for that challenge. That's a significant one. Man, we're not going to push the panic button. What do I mean by the panic button? We're not going to dramatically change who and what we are at this juncture. We're not resistant to change for the purposes of getting better, but we're not going to be so unsteady that we move away from our compass, the identity that we worked hard to develop and will continue to work hard to develop, and the emphasis on a style of play, whatever that may be in all three phases. We will make necessary adjustments, whatever that may be, born out of conversations and work and what we see in preparation. But that's the natural course of action that we go through each and every week. We would have that mentality and take that approach if we had played well and won, because each week presents a new challenge in the NFL. And so that's where we are. We accept responsibility for poor performance, me first and foremost, as a leader of the group, but we also resolve to rectify it. And if you need details and understanding why, I've provided it. And I can outline that in greater detail as you have questions, and I'm happy to, but that's the agenda for us. We got to get better schematically. We got to get them better technically through skills relative to their positions, and we got to be a smarter group. And by a smarter group, it also means penalties, but it's not exclusive to penalties. Some of our penalties are technical in nature or skill-related in nature relative to our positions. We're getting holding calls and things on offense, and particularly in the offensive line in the run game, because we're not working to keep our hands inside, for example, in some instances. And so, we got some growth ahead of us. I'm excited about that growth. I'm excited about doing it with the collection of men we work with. We got to have tough skin. I assume that they do. I know many of the ones that I've worked with for an extended period of time do. We got to teach the young ones, because that's a component of getting out of our present circumstance as well. On the injury front, in game, Okorafor is in the concussion protocol, and that'll be our guide in terms of his return to work, and then we'll let that quality of work be our guide in terms of his participation. You guys know the protocol that we go through there. I'm anticipating Juju practicing at some point this week. He may be limited tomorrow, but he'll get back to work for us. A number of guys who were out last week, Deontay Johnson, T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith, are scheduled to practice. And then we'll let the quantity and the quality of that practice be our guide in terms of determining their availability. Our guys are working hard, maybe in some instances are close, but I haven't asked a lot of detailed information about where they are at this point, although we now start to get into the phase of eligibility and so forth. Once we deem those guys back to work, they get 21 calendar days to determine it and all of that in terms of their availability. So I don't have a lot of details regarding that other than an acknowledgement that we are at that state. All the guys are working hard. I've been focused more on the updates of the guys that are on the active roster and working to return to us in the immediate future. Now regarding Green Bay, man, what do you have to say about Green Bay? It starts with Aaron Rodgers, man. What a ridiculous challenge he and they are, particularly in their venue. When in the opening, I didn't talk about our inability to take care of the ball, man. We've lost the turnover battle the last couple of weeks, and that's one of the reasons why we haven't played the way we would like, at least in terms of the desired outcome. We didn't turn the ball over in Buffalo, for instance. We didn't have a fluid start there, but we were able to stay within striking distance and not lose our personality and the game played out the way it played out. You can't go to Green Bay anticipating turning the ball over and being in it. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers don't turn the ball over. I think they've turned the ball over 3 times this year in one game, and you saw the outcome of that game. They haven't turned it over since. I think they only had 9 turnovers in 2020, and that's why they were one of those groups, man, that was there to the very end. But it speaks to Aaron Rodgers, man. This guy operates with great fluidity. He takes care of the ball. He makes good and quick decisions and has for an extremely long time. He's got a lot of eligibles to work with. Devonte Adams obviously is the first one that comes to mind. A guy like him, coupled with a quarterback relationship like that, you're working your tail off just to kind of minimize it in those moments, to think that you're going to deny him is probably not realistic. We got to minimize his impact on the game. Oftentimes, I often use that term when I'm talking about quarterback-receiver relationships. It's not eliminating, it's minimizing, and particularly maybe in those weighty moments is important. But they've got good balance. Can't say enough about Aaron Jones, their quality runner, who's off to a great start. He's equally talented in the passing game and a legitimate weapon there. They got quality depth. Probably hadn't seen a lot of A.J. Dillon to this point in 2021, but, I know what he's about. Studied him a short time ago in draft preparation. They have a well-balanced and fluid offensive attack. They take care of the ball. They can stretch it vertically and horizontally and utilize a myriad of people to support those two central guys I talked about in Adams and Jones. And at the controls of it all is Rodgers. And so we got a work cut out for us there from a defensive perspective, but also from an offensive perspective, man. Our offense has got to do a good job of possessing the ball and taking care of it. And that's something that we haven't done a good job of. And so we're challenged in those ways, man. The special teams has got to provide an asset to us like it did in Buffalo, for example, maybe with a splash play or two. It doesn't necessarily mean trickery. It just means good quality play that produces splash. And so I'm looking at it from that perspective. I'm excited about starting this process of preparation. It's already begun with the staff. We start with the players from a physical prep standpoint tomorrow. We've already started from a mental prep, just assessing where we are, acknowledging what we've done and what needs to change, and setting our mind for the work that lies ahead. So, man, that's what this league is about. If you're a competitor, man, this space is where we live. When you're up against it, you're up against it. And so I'm excited about attacking that this week with these guys. I'll pause and open it up for questions.
Mike, you talk about the negativity. Ben said after the game his message to the players going forward would be just don't quit. And then we heard Tyler Boyd say that yesterday, that your team laid down at the end and basically quit. Did you see any of that? And I'm just curious your reaction to that.
I don't care about Tyler Boyd's opinion regarding what transpired at any point in that game. Like I said after the game, and it includes him, I tip my cap to that team and that organization for their performance and win. And I proceed moving on to the next challenge. And, we better play better the next time we see them. That's always our mentality. I care less about, what people say that are not involved in us and with us and function and understand who and what we are. He's entitled to his opinion, but, I don't have to respond to it.
Mike, following up on a question you were asked in postgame, Najee was tackled on a 4th and 10 close to the goal line. Do you guys have to expand your menu of plays in the red zone? I believe the phrase you used after the game was you'd fired a lot of your bullets at that point. Do you need to expand the menu of plays that you have available, or go to the well again on something that maybe didn't work to avoid that scenario from taking place again in the future?
No, that's just a snapshot of where we were at that moment, man. It was not a good day for us. We don't run away from that. If you want to use that moment to illustrate how poor a day it was, then it's a good play to do so. I'm not concerned about our options or the size of our menu relative to any in-game circumstances. It was just a poor day for us, and that play is reflective of it.
Mike, Najee said afterward that a lot of the passes that he caught in targets were the result of checkdowns. What's happening in the passing game that isn't developing downfield that the receivers aren't able to get open or Ben get the ball to them?
It might not have anything to do with what's going on downfield. It might have to do with the game circumstances or maybe what goes on up front. Nothing happens in a vacuum on a football field when you're talking about 11 moving parts in each unit and planning and schematics. And so, that was a function of the day. It won't be necessarily represent the functions of us moving forward. But it did transpire in that game, and he was a good resource to us, and it was productive. You don't like to utilize it as much as we did. But it's obvious things. We were playing with backups in certain instances, man. We went into the game without Deontay. Juju went down in game. We had Cody White playing who was playing in his first NFL action, et cetera. And so the quality of execution and cohesion in that area of the field just probably didn't lend itself to going down the field as much as we would like. And so some of those passes ended up in the hands of Najee, which is not a bad place for some of those passes to end up.
Mike, typically, over here.
I'm sorry.
Mike, typically Ben doesn't practice on Wednesdays with the first team. Given where you guys are at, is that something that maybe needs to happen this week until you guys get it figured out?
This guy has a body of work over the course of not only what we've done in preparation this season, but over the course of 18 years that has us taking that approach, and that is a global approach. It rests him, and rightfully so. He's an older guy, and the wear and tear of plays affects him differently than younger guys. But also he's an older guy, and he has a volume of plays that most guys can't pull from that probably requires more physical work in an effort to be ready to play. Also, you got to look at the totality of the journey. You know, we're going into game 4. We have many games that lie ahead, and I don't want to be fielding questions late in the year about the quality of his throwing arm, for example. But it also provides an opportunity for things that have nothing to do with Ben. We got 2 quality young quarterbacks that we feel good about in Rudolph and Haskins. And days that he doesn't work allows them an opportunity to work with the first unit and grow and develop, which is something that they need as well. So we're serving a lot of things with that approach, and very rarely is that approach or that decision to that approach made in a vacuum or made on a singular set of circumstances.
Mike, even if you wanted to make changes on the offensive side of the ball, especially the offensive line, do you feel like your options are limited in where you can go with the depth you have there?
I don't feel limited in any way. No, I don't.
Mike, to your answer a couple questions ago about Ben being an older guy, more wear and tear, was there any consideration at any point Sunday to making a change at quarterback and try to get a spark?
No, it was not.
Ben, after the game, said that everything hurt for him. Did you get any indication he came out of this any worse for wear, especially with the pec injury?
He and I talked yesterday. He and I always talk. You know, I mean, I referenced that like that was something groundbreaking. We always visit after the game. We always visit on Monday. We always visit on Tuesday. I check the progress of the bumps and bruises associated with play for him. And so I have an understanding of maybe what the front part of the week looks like, and we can plan accordingly. Nothing out of the ordinary there.
Mike, it seems as though defenses are holding a team meeting at the line of scrimmage whenever you hand off to Najee and getting penetration in the backfield. Is that a matter of substandard performance or a matter of schematics?
You know, I don't know that I agree with that. You know, at times we've been stopped. At times we've stopped ourselves. I think we had 2 10-plus yard runs in the first 10 snaps of the game that were called back due to holding calls, and they were legitimate holding calls. I don't know if they aided in the ball going the 10-plus yards that it went, but they were legitimate holding calls. And so, yes, it is what the opponents are doing, but it's also what we're doing or not doing, and that's what creates the popcorn. If it was one singular thing, you could address it in that one singular way. But that's why I addressed it the way I addressed it in my opening, in that I acknowledge we got to get better, and that getting better is multi-pronged in a lot of areas, and we intend to continue to work in those areas in an effort to improve it. We don't get to count those 10-plus yard runs that call back, but they're on video. We're capable of winning the line of scrimmage and having explosion runs at the beginning of the game. We got to play cleaner. If we do it, we got a better taste in our mouth, and it sets a trajectory that allows us to go on and continue to work our plan in the way in which we intended. But when you're highly penalized and you're not gaining offensive rhythm or occupying possession of the football due to those things, then your personality is in question, your plan or your scheme is in question, the quality of the players in which you do it with are in question, et cetera, et cetera. And we understand that. And so we're not running away from the questions, but don't take it personal if we don't have the answers that you're looking for, because the answers are steeped in our work.
Yeah, Mike, real quick before I get to the question. Did you mention Kendrick Green at all among the injured guys? He left the game.
I think that's bumps and bruises associated with play. I don't think his availability is going to be limited starting tomorrow. If I'm wrong, obviously you'll hear about it in the practice participation report.
Okay, you mentioned earlier about maximizing your strengths. Offensively, what would you consider those strengths to be?
Man, we got a quality set of eligibles, man. Those guys are somewhat young, but they're not young in football experience, man. Guys like Juju and Claypool and Deontay and James Washington have made a lot of plays for us. We got good quality talent and a variety of talent at the tight end position and different skill sets. And Pat, although new, has added to that. And you've seen evidence of that over the course of the first couple of weeks. Although he lacks experience, man, Najee has shown in a very short period of time that he is game and capable of doing what's required in terms of being a featured runner, et cetera, et cetera. I like Trey Turner, man, and the veteran experience and expertise that he brings. But he's a member of a unit. Many of those guys don't have experience that he has. And so it's cool to watch him mentor and share that experience with others, but he can't do it fast enough. We can't do it fast enough. We're coming together in some areas, but in some areas we have what we perceive to be strengths, and some of them I outlined for you.
Through three games, no running back in the NFL has been hit at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage more than Najee. Can you just explain to us, educate us a little bit, how much of that is a young guy still learning to read what's there, and how much of that is there just not being anything there?
You know, I don't have the percentages, but like I mentioned, we're all very much in the process of development. He has missed a hole or two as well, and he would admit that. In some instances, the holes aren't there. In some instances, the holes are there, and he runs through them, but a penalty brings the thing back. We can talk around this, and we have, and I'm open to continue, but I'll continue to answer in the same manner that I've been, because that's the truth as I see it.
Mike, you mentioned all the work that needs to happen in practice and some of the things you have to do. How do you feel your team will respond to adversity?
I'm excited about doing it with them. I believe in these guys and their football character and their willingness to work. It's been on display throughout this process. And so, I don't know that that's something that I've even highly considered. I'm excited about getting back to work tomorrow.
Yeah, Mike, after the game, Ben, there was that offensive pass interference penalty down by the goal line where it looked like the blocking took place. And Ben mentioned something after the game about his understanding was if there was press coverage that the receiver could block that man right away. Is there an interpretation that you got about that?
I didn't need an interpretation. I understand the rule. That penalty is more likely to get called in that area of the field because you have the goal line and you see contact happen within the goal line. They talk about a healthy yard in relations to some of those blocks, when you're throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage. When you're in open grass, it's tough to tell what a healthy yard is or isn't. When the ball's on the 2-yard line, it's easy to tell what a healthy yard is or isn't, because either you're in the end zone blocking or you aren't. And so in open grass, guys are often given more latitude in terms of some of those plays, whether they're clean or not. They're not given that latitude based on field position when that ball is where that ball was. And so that's the story regarding that penalty.
Mike, in the secondary, you guys were rotating safeties more than usual. Sutton coming in for Edmonds several times. Is that just trying to get Pierre on the field more, or are you guys still spinning the dial with that?
It was game plan specific.
Mike, I know you guys are dealing with a lot of injuries on defense. How do you assess how that group's taken on those challenges? And in the last 2 games, you guys have given up 2 big chunk plays for touchdowns. What is your assessment on how you guys fix those problems?
The defensive group is 1 and 2, just like the football team. We got to play better situational ball. We're at our best when we're rising up in those moments where you're staring in the face of adversity or opportunity. The 2 big plays you mentioned, one was a 3rd down and 10, the other one was a 2-minute. Those are situational football plays. And so in an effort to dominate situational football, first you got to be intelligent. You got to understand that the game is somewhat different in those moments and personalities change in those moments. And so, I'm hopeful that we're going to minimize some of that as we gain cohesion and understanding individually and collectively. The more we play, we better because we got to be better in 2-minute. We got to be better in 3rd down. We got to be better when placed on the short field after a turnover. Last week we gave up 14 points when placed on a short field after the turnover. When we're at our best, and routinely we are, those 2 turnovers are 6 points as opposed to 14. And so those are some of the things that I'm focused on about the development of the defense. Forget who's available and not available. We got certain standards we hold ourselves to.
We all know what TJ Watt is singularly, individually capable of. But when he is on the field, what is the impact that he has on everybody else, on the rest of the defense?
I don't know what you mean by that. I imagine he has more of an impact on what offenses do when he's on the field. Their mentality in terms of protection and how many guys they're getting out or not getting out, or what they're doing to minimize the pressure that comes from the side of the field that he's on. If that's what you're referring to, that's probably more of a significant discussion than it is what his presence means to the other 10 that are on our side.
Mike, when we talked to Najee after the game, he said that he hasn't lost 2 games in a row since high school, maybe. What do you share with a guy like him and some of the other rookies who haven't experienced this level?
Welcome to the bigs. My sons didn't lose a lot of high school football games either. They feel a little differently about the competition now that they play college ball. It's just the nature of this thing.
Mike, you had a couple of times in your career where you had some rocky Septembers, and then you scrambled back in October and November, got above 500. We're still in it late. What traits that were present on those teams that you can recall that might be applicable to this year's team?
Man, I hadn't thought a lot about it, to be honest with you. You guys know me, man. I live in the here and the now and the variables that are in front of me with this particular group. I don't waste a lot of time, comparing present circumstances to past circumstances that has different variables and different men involved. It just doesn't help me get out of the stadium this week.
2 more, guys. Mike, I assume if Chooks doesn't go, you're going to go with Haig. What attracted you to Haig in the free agency, and how did he participate? How did he play in those 30 snaps that he did on Sunday?
I thought he gave us a solid effort. That's one of the things that attracted us to him. He's been a swing tackle the better part of his career, a guy that's capable of stepping up and playing above the line on a limited amount of exposure. He's equally effective at right tackle as he is left. He also has been involved in some short yardage, tight end things and functions in the past, and all of that was attractive.
Mike, when it comes to your young offensive linemen, what areas do you think are realistic for them to improve quickly on, and what areas maybe do you think are just naturally going to take time?
Skills relative to their position, knowledge or understanding based on experience, I think happens quickly. You make mistakes, man, you learn, it's imprinted in your mind forever. But the cohesion, the collective, the things that are collective in nature are usually a longer process.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thanks.
All right, that's Mike Tomlin after his press conference today, now joined by Missy Matthews, who does an outstanding job at Steelers.com. And the message is, this is the big leagues, as he said at the end, talking about Najee losing 2 in a row. And there's pressure, there's adversity. His message is you got to deal with adversity, and how you deal with it will determine what happens next.
Yeah, we heard him say absorb the negativity after the game on Sunday. Same thing today in his opening during his press conference, and was asked about facing adversity with his team and said he's excited to go to work tomorrow with everybody whenever they pick up with practice.
And that's going to be the key. They got to figure out what's wrong. There are a lot of penalties that can be corrected. They've nullified big plays. We'll talk about that and break down what's next, because it's a trip to Green Bay. We'll do that when we continue right here on a Tomlin Tuesday. It's the Mike Tomlin press conference on Pittsburgh CW and all the Steeler digital platforms.
The Steelers Pro Shop at Heinz Field has everything you need to show off your Steelers pride. Experience a shopping environment unlike any other. From custom jerseys to terrible towels, sideline gear, and more. There's something black and gold for every fan. Get your Steelers gear directly from the team this year. Visit shop.steelers.com for more information.
I mean, obviously 10 points isn't enough to win an NFL game. We know that. We're going to have to come in tomorrow, watch the film, and see what we can execute better. All comes down to execution. looking at what we can improve on, and just going into practice this week. Looking forward to Green Bay and see what we can correct.
There was a sense and a lot of discussion over the week that when it came to blocking, that there was just maybe one thing being missed or whatever. Not to try to find a positive in something like this, but was any of that happening? More clicking the run blocking?
I mean, I think early on in the first half, I think it was, we obviously weren't kind of running the ball the way we wanted to. But I think, in the second half, I think we ran the ball in that drive. Going into the halftime, I think we moved the ball pretty well. I think we had some pretty long drives that we were able to run the ball on. We just killed ourselves with penalties and stuff like that. I think Naj had like 3 runs of 10+ that got called back because of a holding call. And that's just attention to detail. So we can't shoot ourselves in the foot. So we just got to, look at those mistakes and try and get better.
How do you guys kind of keep confidence, obviously, moving forward after a day like today? And is there a message from the veterans in the group to you guys to kind of maintain that confidence?
Yeah, I think, the confidence just comes from, we have all the talent in the world on offense, and especially defense as well. So we just got to continue to, be confident in ourselves, not get down on each other, and not break away as a team. We got to come together and, build each other up, because we got a lot of talent at receiver and tight end and O-line and quarterback and so forth. So we just got to continue to stick together and just find ways to exploit the defense and make explosive plays.
Okay. Pat, is it just practice where you find that execution? Like, where can you find that better execution that you were discussing?
I think especially in the game, we look for that momentum shift, to trying to get us going and execute more.
Towel is twirling, and this atmosphere is very special. It always is for a Steelers game at Heinz
Field. I believe in these guys and their football character and their willingness to work has been on display throughout this process, and so. I don't know that that's something that I've even highly considered. I'm excited about getting back to work tomorrow.
And that's what's next. Got to get back and forget about it. Got to have short memories in sports, especially in situations like this. The Steelers need a win badly. There's no question about that. Other teams in the league are ahead of them right now, and these are conference losses, Missy. But, to me, it all starts right now, too, looking at this week with their injuries and who will be available, who won't be available, and how they, mix and match from there, because they do have a lot of injuries.
Yeah, no question about it. I think the good news is that Deontay Johnson, TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, they all missed Sunday's game. They are scheduled to practice again this week, so hopefully their arrow will be pointed up, and by Friday they won't appear on the status report. But Juju Smith-Schuster, who was hurt, had that rib injury in game. He kept going in and out. Chuks Okorafor is in the concussion protocol. He was hurt towards the end of that game, and then Kendrick Green also left, and we saw J.C. Hassenauer go in, but coach said that was more bumps and bruises, so hopefully Kendrick's not involved in the practice report at all. But then you start thinking about the guys that are currently on IR: Stephon Tuitt, Zach Banner, Anthony McFarland. They are eligible to return to practice this week, but the Steelers don't want to do that until they know you have a 21-day window where they can return to practice. But once you get to week 6, if they do go tomorrow, you revert back to IR. So I think they have to figure out what their timetable is, and coach did not have an update on them during his press conference.
And after that 21 days, then you're back on that IR, and then you're pretty much in limbo for the rest of the season. So they have to decide what to do next, and no specific answers on that. But those guys would be certainly a welcome addition, considering some of the injuries. The Tyson Alualu is a big one. Not many people talk about what he meant to the middle of that defensive line, but man, that's a guy who was getting it done and making life a little easier for Cam Hayward.
No doubt about it. And you saw, Cam playing probably more snaps than anticipated heading into the season because of the loss of him. So, yes, getting a healthy Stephon Tuitt back, a Zach Banner, especially whenever you have Chuks Okorafor in the concussion protocol, those things would all be great. But I think we're going to have to wait until they practice tomorrow to find out. And they have to reduce the big plays. Another thing that Mike Tomlin talked about, Green Bay has that ability to go deep, and they have weapons who can get that done. And the Steelers need better performances, quite frankly, from guys they're going to count on and high-end draft picks like Devin Bush, who's coming back from an injury, looks to be
not 100%, but he's been out of position in a lot of that stuff. They need better play, especially in the middle of the field.
Yeah, you hate to say that injuries can be an excuse, but knowing how many people they were missing, you had Jameer Jones starting at outside linebacker. Melvin Ingram was playing 100% of the snaps. You know, he was part of a rotation or supposed to be with TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. And I think Joe Schobert's still getting used to being the defensive quarterback of the defense. You know, Joe Hayden missed the Raiders game, so he was back this week. It just seems like the injuries keep building up on that defensive side of the ball, and hopefully this is the week that maybe we kind of get away from that.
And like they did in Buffalo, you know, they got after. Now they were healthier, obviously, and then with that defense healthier, they can do more things. And I think Josh Allen was a little out of his comfort zone. You try to do that with Aaron Rodgers, but last week, Joe Burrow, who had been sacked 9 times in 2 games, didn't feel any pressure whatsoever. Somehow, some way, that's got to change too.
Absolutely, and I think everybody probably watched the Packers on Sunday Night Football. They are able to score points and move the ball, so a big test for the Steelers defense and the offense, as Coach said, facing the adversity this week. Not happy that you're sitting here at 1-2 at the bottom of the AFC North Division, which, you know, they preach, win the division and take it from there. So they need to get some wins in order to change that.
Because after that, it's 2 home games. They have Denver, which is undefeated right now, although they've taken on some bad teams, you would argue, and then Seattle. And Russell Wilson certainly is not an easy opponent, especially here. You know, he's been here, he's had success. So it starts this week before they have a bye opportunity, and the Steelers right now sit at 1-2. We have plenty more coming up as we continue our analysis of Mike Tomlin, where the Steelers are right now after 2 home losses. We'll do that when we continue right here on Pittsburgh CW and all the Steeler digital platforms.
The Steelers Pro Shop at Heinz Field has everything you need to show off your Steelers pride. Experience a shopping environment unlike any other. From custom jerseys to terrible towels, sideline gear, and more. There's something black and gold for every fan. Get your Steelers gear directly from the team this year. Visit shop.steelers.com for more information.
Well, I mean, the game plan was to win ultimately. How we did it was I wouldn't say it was just to give me the ball. It just so happened I caught a lot of checkdowns. That's really what it was. It wasn't like no design passes for me, just checkdowns, you know.
You talked earlier in the week about having patience as you transition to the NFL. Do you feel that your patience was better today that led to some of those longer runs and what you were able to do with football?
Somehow what?
Your patience. You feel that your patience as you developed, you talked about earlier in the week, just being patient and developing in the NFL. Do you feel you were better today with that and just how you were able to get down the field?
Running wise? Like running,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know, man. There's a lot that I need to work on, I guess. I could do better, though.
Any more questions for
Najee, does it help you feel more settled maybe when you're so involved early? Does it help you get into the flow of the game faster when there is a conscious effort to get you the ball, or even just their checkdowns that are making you involved in the offense?
Does it make me feel comfortable?
Get settled into the flow of the game faster.
I mean, I'm already settled in. I really don't know how to answer that question. I'm already settled in, though. It's, giving me the ball early on, I guess it helps me with see how the defense is playing. But to answer your question, I'm already settled in.
Najee, have you ever lost 2 games in a row in your life before?
Last time I lost 2 games in a row?
When have you ever, do you think?
Was my senior year of high school.
Give any sort of advice? Like
Yeah.
how
Yeah, a lot of the guys did. A couple guys came to me and said, this isn't college.
The terrible towel is twirling, and this atmosphere is very special. It always is for a Steelers game at Heinz Field.
He was a good resource to us, and it was productive. You don't like to utilize it as much as we did, but it's obvious things. You know, we were playing with backups in certain instances, man. We went into the game without Deontay. Juju went down in game. We had Cody White playing, who was playing in his first NFL action, et cetera. And so the quality of execution and cohesion in that area of the field just probably didn't lend itself to going down the field as much as we would like. And so some of those passes ended up in the hands of Najee, which is not a bad place for some of those passes to end up.
Mike Tomlin talking about Najee Harris, and these are the BetMGM by the numbers. 19 is too many, though, Missy. You can't have him targeted that many times. Although he made 14, had a couple of drops. You know, overall, you want to see more in the run game. And again, I'll go back to what he said, too, because I agree with him. If you look at the first 4 of the first 8 runs he had, 3 of them were over 10 yards, and yet 3 of them were all called back by penalty.
Right.
And those are big, that shows you that it can be effective. But I think the Steelers have got to go back to doing that run game, even if it's not successful early in the game. Just keep pounding it away. Would you do that too?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think anybody predicted that Najee Harris's first 100-yard game with the Steelers would be through the air, not on the ground. And I do feel like, you know, the Bengals probably figured out, hey, if Ben can't find a guy open or whatever's happening, they're going to check it down to Najee. So it became a little predictable sometimes as well, especially through the second half. But it's hard when, you know, as Coach Tomlin said, you are playing down and trailing a team and not able, you know, that the touchdown drive to Pat Freiermuth, you tie it up, you think you're going to be good going into halftime, and then there was the roughing the passer call on Melvin Ingram, 3 plays, they're in the end zone. It's just a totally different ball game.
And you see some of those moves after catch, even though there was no space and a lot of white shirts, he is capable of really doing some extra stuff, and that's what's so exciting to watch when you see him play. Now, it's got to be part of the run game, more so than anything else, I think, but you heard Aditi, I think, asked in the press conference that he's been hit more than any other running back. You know, he's a young guy, and that's a lot of hits in 3 games over the course of a long game. You know, you often talk about rookies and the rookie wall. You don't want him to be hit that much at the line of scrimmage.
And there's an extra game
Right.
just in general this season, but you know, he is still learning. He's very upfront about that when we hear from him on Fridays and post game, and coach said, you know, he missed some holes he got through, but wasn't able to take it to the second level. The penalties, there's a lot going on, so it is most certainly something they need to clean up and get back to. It's what we've been hearing since January and February, that the run game is a top priority for the Steelers organization.
It was. They spent a lot of the offseason trying to figure out what to do with it. Right now, it looks like it's reverted back to that, and they need to change that, and Mike Tomlin knows that, and his staff know that as well. But Najee Harris is electric when he gets the football. They just got to give him more opportunities in the run game to get that done. And if you look at Green Bay's defense, I think that can happen as long as the execution up front is better than what it's been. You know, the funny thing about this is that Mike is very much committed to these young guys. He's been from the beginning of the season knowing that there are going to be some growing pains, but it's got to get a lot better, a lot quicker, and it all starts in practice.
Yeah, we hear from Craig Wolfley all the time. He, of course, knows a lot about the offensive line. It's 5 guys, but it's one unit. And if one guy's doing something wrong on one play and then it's another guy, it's almost that popcorn effect that we hear Coach Tomlin talk about. So most certainly something that they are going to continue to work on in practice. Coach went through, you know, the 3-pronged approach with the schematics, getting fundamentally more sound and just knowing the game, the knowledge and of your position and what to do. So a lot of young guys on that offense, and they need to accelerate the learning curve.
Yes, they do. Green Bay is where it all starts. Not an easy way to go in the NFC. They've won 2 in a row. And by the way, for those of you just joining us, Mike Tomlin was asked about his response to Tyler Boyd and his criticism of the Steelers' so-called quit. He said he's entitled to his opinion. I don't have to respond to it, but he doesn't pay much attention to what other people say. So that's the bottom line on that one. Those words will come back, though, in Cincinnati week, whenever that is later in the season. I'm sure Tyler Boyd at this point, and I saw a tweet today where he kind of is backpedaling off some of what he said. So this stuff happens. We'll see what happens the next time they meet. But the Steelers, they don't want to worry about that. They have to worry about the Packers right now. We'll take a break, come back. We'll talk about the Packers. We'll talk about what the Steelers have to do to be successful as we continue live right here on Pittsburgh's CW.
The Steelers Pro Shop at Heinz Field has everything you need to show off your Steelers pride. Experience a shopping environment unlike any other. From custom jerseys to terrible towels, sideline gear, and more. There's something black and gold for every fan. Get your Steelers gear directly from the team this year. Visit shop.steelers.com for more information.
You know, we got some hits on him early. We caused the interception because of it. But then after that, you know, they got the lead, and he wasn't really exposed to that. You know, he got the ball out quick, has tipped it out to their offense. You know, that's going to be the game plan for any team that plays us. You know, they're not going to sit back and let us do it. When we don't get the lead, we, you know, are not in a chance to really light our hair on fire. That's what's going to happen.
And were they hurting you with some wides and stuff on some of those runs?
A little bit of cutbacks, start left, come right. You know, it comes down to we have to be in our gaps, get off blocks, make tackles.
What's the mood or the message right now? You're as a captain, two straight at home here, division games. Is there
I don't know what the mood is right now. Just, you know, we sucked today. You know, things did not look well and didn't play in our favor. You know, our level of execution was not at high. You know, whether it's missing the tackle in the red zone when we should have just gave up 3, to a 2-minute drive, we got to get off the field. Starts with a penalty, then ends with a touchdown. As a defense, that's unacceptable. It was less than 2 minutes. Then going into the half, we didn't take the field and get off the field. And when you have that, that's a recipe for a disaster. Defense, we did not play well. Hopefully it's the worst one of the year.
What do you do with that, though, Cam? What do you do with that for the course of the week? Do you look at it almost?
You better look at it. You know, more teams are going to try it. You know, if we want to be a successful defense, we got to get off the field. Can't have penalties. Can't give up big plays.
Towel is twirling, and this atmosphere is very special. It always is for a Steelers game at Heinz
Field. He has more of an impact on what offenses do when he's on the field. Their mentality in terms of protection and how many guys are getting out or not getting out, or what they're doing to minimize the pressure that comes from the side of the field that he's on. If that's what you're referring to, that's probably more of a significant discussion than it is what his presence means to the other 10 that are on our side.
Yeah, that's Mike Tomlin talking about T.J. Watt, whose presence was clearly missed. The Steelers had a sack streak of 75 straight games with at least one. They got none last week. And obviously that guy's a difference maker. We talked about him in the game where he got injured. Well, how many? 16
snaps, yeah.
And he had a lot of pressure of those 16 snaps. You're panning out over the course of a game. It's a lot of pressure on the other team.
And he's done really well against the Bengals in the past. He's had career games against Cincinnati, 7.5 sacks. And we've talked, you know, even prior to this 2-game home stretch the Steelers just completed, TJ does better in terms of getting to the quarterback at home. We've asked him about it. He said there's no really rhyme or reason other than he feeds off the energy. But 15 sacks in 2020, 11.5 of them were at Heinz Field.
So he's expected to be back at practice, as is Alex Highsmith. And the thing about groin injuries, and I think you saw it with Highsmith, is that he had it early on, and you try to get back, and then you could re-aggravate it. Maybe that was the thinking of why Watt did not play last week.
Yeah, he was listed as questionable on Friday. He was limited every single day. So that's obviously a step in the right direction that he was able to do something out at practice. But then, you know, Saturday rolls around and he's downgraded to out. So obviously we don't know what's happening with that. We don't get a chance to hear from TJ until Friday. But I think, you know, what he's able to do in practice Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday will be a big indicator of his availability for Green Bay.
And make no mistake, the Steelers need pressure up front to do what they like to do, which is force quarterbacks in, like I said, out of their comfort zone to hopefully get a turnover or two, and that's been one of the missing things the last couple of weeks. The Steelers have not generated enough of that, and as a result, they've lost the turnover game. So guys like Watt and Highsmith very much sorely needed. We don't know, you know, Tuitt's status at this point, but I'm sure as the week goes on we will. He's due to come off this list. And again, Missy said it earlier, if you come off the list, what is it, 21 days that you either have to be back in the lineup or you have to revert back to where you were.
Right. So the Steelers will be smart about when they, start the clock for each of the three guys, Stephon Tuitt, Zach Banner, and Anthony McFarland. And if any will be able to go tomorrow, we'll find out then.
Yeah, the Packers certainly have some guys down the field who can make you, be on high alert. Devonte Adams, you've seen that relationship. Mike Tomlin made an interesting analogy in that it was like Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown when they were at their height. I mean, it's a relationship that's it's a really good one. They know each other inside out. It makes it very difficult for other teams to try to stop it. He said you can't stop it. You just try to minimize it.
Right. It's kind of like Darren Waller when the Steelers played the Raiders. And the past 2 weeks, we've heard Coach Tomlin talking about, keeping a lid on it. We saw what happened with Henry Ruggs against the Raiders. Jamar Chase's first touchdown, that 3-play drive right before the half that really set the tone, knowing the Bengals were getting the ball to start the second half. So those are just those big plays that the Steelers defense really needs to put a lid on, as Coach said.
They do, especially at Lambeau Field where you can see a lot of big plays. Last thing you want to see is a Lambeau leap on Sunday afternoon. We'll be back to talk more about Mike Tomlin's comments today at his Tomlin Tuesday press conference as we continue live right here on all the Steeler platforms as well as Pittsburgh CW.
The Steelers Pro Shop at Heinz Field has everything you need to show off your Steelers pride. Experience a shopping environment unlike any other. From custom jerseys to terrible towels, sideline gear, and more. There's something black and gold for every fan. Get your Steelers gear directly from the team this year. Visit shop.steelers.com for more information.
They're sitting back trying to prevent the big play. We got a couple of decent chunks in there, but just kind of. So at that point you got to go throw the ball every play pretty much. So got to make some plays, and guys made plays when we had to, but we didn't make enough.
What was the fourth down play? Was that the call, the little swing pass to Najee down there?
They have a type of defense. We called it picket fence. I don't know what you're going to call it, where they just sit back and. We anticipated that's what they showed, and so we're going to try and get it to him to get guys out in front to block for him and see what we could do. You're a little limited from that far out on what you can do, except maybe throw a ball up or hindsight, we wish we would have maybe take a shot in the end zone. I wish I would have done that.
Your second interception, what did you see? Like thrown across the middle?
Yeah, I didn't see that. I thought he was going the other direction. Saw Juju. The defender was kind of moving to his right, my left, and just awful play by me.
The pec injury was really painful. How was it during the game, and how do you feel now?
Everything hurts.
First interception, you get your arm hit. Did that affect you the rest of the game, or was that just something that you should?
No, you hate those kind of turnovers. The ball you get hit and the ball pops up in the air. Chase is going to be open on the sideline, and guy made a great play. Unfortunately, bad for us.
Ben, I think it's already 10 sacks through 3 games that you've absorbed. I think it was 14 all last year. How much of that is what's happening in front of you, and how much of that is you just figuring out, when you're making your progressions, maybe not get through the ball in time, stuff like that?
Yeah, there were coverage sacks today. There was when you drop back and throw it 50 sometimes. I don't know how many we threw it tight today. Those are going to happen. I thought the guys put forth some good effort today. It's not easy when you're blocking the group that put a lot of money into their D-line.
Towel is twirling, and this atmosphere is very special. It always is for a Steelers game at Heinz Field.
Hey, welcome back. Bob Pompiani, Missy Matthews, as the Steelers get ready for a trip to Green Bay. And, Ben Roethlisberger is a Hall of Famer, but he's not the same as he once was. Nobody is. And, one of the things that always made him so dangerous to other teams was his ability to extend plays. Well, that's not happening. So what do the Steelers have to do to extend drives, knowing that he can't extend plays the way he once did?
win the line of scrimmage, get the ground game going. You know, Coach said they are capable of winning the line of scrimmage. Penalties, of course, were drive killers in this past game, but also taking care of Ben. He's been sacked 8 times through 3 games, 23 hits, you know, only 13 sacks last season. He said after the game his entire body hurts. He came in with a pec injury, elbow got banged up, so we definitely need to do a better job at that.
And one thing Mike Tomlin did say was he's not going to change what he's done. That is, Ben Roethlisberger normally gets Wednesdays off, gives him an opportunity to see some of those other guys with, you know, first-team linemen and going against first-team defenses, and that's the way he's going to keep it moving forward. And probably in the long run, that's the best thing to do. You don't want to, you know, put him through something if it means potentially getting worse physically.
Absolutely, and we'll recap some of those injuries. We're going to take another quick break. You are watching the Mike Tomlin press conference.
The Steelers Pro Shop at Heinz Field has everything you need to show off your Steelers pride. Experience a shopping environment unlike any other. From custom jerseys to terrible towels, sideline gear, and more. There's something black and gold for every fan. Get your Steelers gear directly from the team this year. Visit shop.steelers.com for more information.
Man, we just have to come out and practice harder. We just got to figure out what drives us as a team and come out together and stay together as a team and come out and just practice harder next week and let's go get this win because we all know what we're capable of. They just came out, they played a hard game tonight. They were the better team tonight, but we're going to come out next week and we got to show them what Steelers football is all about.
Cam said that he wasn't sure what the mood was in the locker room right now. From your perspective, what is kind of the feeling, especially among the defense after today's game?
Man, we didn't play that well. We didn't play that well as a defense. We didn't play to our capabilities, and we know that we can be better. So everyone is like, what are we doing wrong? And that, again, that's why I'm saying it goes back to practice. We just have to come out and practice and play lights out in practice. No just overthrows on balls or anything. We just got to go hard 24/7 and get better. That's pretty much the breakdown of everything. We just have to get better because tonight's not acceptable at all.
Along those lines, how do you guys kind of keep your confidence in yourself and kind of make sure the young guys still have that after a loss like today?
It really goes back to the leaders. We have some great leaders on our team, and they're not going to let us slack. They're not going to let us take our foot off the gas, you could say, because we have to come out next week because we have to turn the page from this game. We're going to watch it tomorrow, make our corrections, but we have to turn the page and be ready for Green Bay this coming up week.
Is there frustration with the defense or the struggles by your offense?
No frustration because if they're struggling, we have to help them, and if we're struggling, they have to help us. It plays hand to hand, and we know going into a game, everyone knows that because we have to just help each other out the best way we can because we go like yin and yang. We have to go out there and help each other out. So that's our whole mindset on it. So regardless of where we get the ball or where we place, we have to hold them to a 3-and-out or a field goal or anything, regardless of sudden change.
Towel is twirling, and this atmosphere is very special. It always is for a Steelers game at Heinz Field.
All right, quickly recapping injuries. Juju Smith-Schuster may be limited starting on Wednesday. Chukwueze Okorafor is in the concussion protocol. The good news, though, Bob, Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt, and Deontay Johnson, who all missed this past game, should be practicing this week.
So it's a big week. Steelers-Packers, 425 KDKA. That's going to do it for our press conference today. For Missy Matthews and everyone here, I'm Bob Pompiani. We got the Mike Tomlin Show coming up Saturday night, 11:35 on KDKA. Following that, you can hit it up on Steelers' YouTube page. Have a good day, everyone. We'll see you next week.